This is Rydo, and we're back to another live stream of Magic the Gathering Arena. We're starting late today, pretty late, 9:24 Central Time. Today's Friday, May 15th. I'm thinking we might shift back to going back to about 2 o'clock Central Time, the time period where kids would be getting out of school. If they were in school, people would be getting off work. Uh, Something like that, an after school special type thing, because I moved all of my pre-recorded footage to air earlier, and I'm only airing one, maybe two videos anyway, so I still should get the uploads. And I'm just not getting the views that I once did, and I don't know if that has to do with me switching from Hearthstone to Magic Arena, or if that just has nothing to do with anything. Uh, it's kind of hard to tell, and you just never know, and you never really can tell. So here we have this. The vault was the secret vault that we finally made progress. So uh, we are at 100.3%. It contains one mythic rare wild card, two rare wild cards, and three uncommon wild cards. And you can unlock the vault by collecting cards. But this vault disappears when it doesn't seem. And what they mean by collecting cards, and they're not really explaining this is what you get, the small amount of what would be the equivalent of dust in Hearthstone, uh, when you get a fifth copy of a card. Although I'm not sure that it even includes common cards. I'm not sure that you get any progress whatsoever for getting a fifth copy of common cards. I think those are just basically worthless. It's an attempt, not particularly a great successful one, particularly since they don't tell you about it until you've already filled it. But it's an attempt to put some value on continuing to play draft and continuing to get cards once you have a complete collection. But it's not great. But you can't really turn down 5 wild cards. And you can see the vault is now gone again and will be gone for quite a while. You have to, I think, get somewhere around 1,000 cards or some equivalent to that. There was a daily deal that was quite shocking, where it was 550 gold for 50 gold. Just straight up, they are now implementing a thing that if you check your daily deals, which really seem to only last maybe 12 hours, 13 hours, they don't seem to actually be daily, you can get rewarded with just a deal that is great. Of course, you can only buy one, so you log in, you spend 50 gold, you get 550 gold back. That's a nice little improvement. The reason why I have made so much progress off screen is because I played off screen one day, and instead of doing something else, which maybe I should have done something else. One of the other reasons why I think maybe going to a later evening thing is I've never been one of these super high energy morning people. So I don't think my style of covering things really works in that. We have a Friday night magic we need to do. It's free. And let's see. I guess we'll stick with the Brawl deck we already have, and hope we can win without having to build a new deck. Yeah. The other reason why I was starting late today is because I stayed up late this morning trying to finish the 11th hour, the sequel to the 7th Guest. The game is just awful. The puzzles are awful. The story is awful. Every part about it's awful, and it's really convinced me not to play the 13th Doll, which is the fan-made project, and apparently the 13th install came out last year anyway, so I was totally wrong about that. It probably came out to such little fanfare that's why I didn't even recognize it was out. I thought it was coming out in 2020. It came out in October of 2019. And as for the Seventh Guest trilogy, if you want to really call it that, I would take the name. The name probably has some recognizability. I would take the general concept of a spooky story and 7 guests, and then I would leave everything else on the cutting room floor, including the full motion video, and try and start something new. And really, I would just be licensing the name to probably put a new horror story game around that. And yeah, I don't know if you even really need to do that. You might just be better off making a game called The Eighth Guest and moving on from that. It's not like 7 is even a good number. You could make a game called The Sixth Guest, and that would be fine too. It's just how many people you want, as long as it's more than 3 and less than I would say about 9 or 10. 10 would be the maximum there. Maybe you could get to a dozen. But yeah, the 11th Hour is really a game that I think is the first game I've ever had to really say this, but it kind of gets what it deserves with its incredibly difficult puzzles. Apparently, also, if you click help 3 times, the game will play for you, but then in the final puzzle, it won't do that. So apparently it will only solve the puzzles that you could get solutions through the walkthrough. It doesn't solve the games where you're actually playing against an AI. And that's the problem I kept running into, is that there were these simple games that an AI, even for the time that the 11th Hour was released, could be programmed to play against and make the perfect moves. And you just have to hope that you can get lucky or somehow snooker the other players. Otherwise you are going to forever be in a situation where you're just going to lose and then lose and then lose and then lose and then lose some more and then lose some more. I spent at least 2 hours trying to beat some of these games. And yeah, at the end of the game you're given a Monty Hall let's make a deal type puzzle. Do you want what's behind door number 1, door number 2, door number 3? And it literally is just a parody of the Monty Hall let's make a deal, or more commonly known, I guess it would be Wayne Brady let's make a deal. And you can't save before the last game, which is one of the worst games. So it just becomes increasingly frustrating because of that. Let's see. And exile an enchantment card from your graveyard if you do create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Interesting. Can I get multiple black zombies on the field? Let's see. When something dies, put it on the battlefield. That won't do anything. I don't have anything in the graveyard right now, but we do have this enchantment card, so I can play this later. I could play this at some point and create more zombie token creatures. I think that's probably what we're trying to do, is have multiple zombie creatures on the field so that you could then amass and pump up multiple zombies. Alright. Let's put, say, 1/1. So if I block with that one, I should be fine. I can't play this, even though it has all this fanfare, all this glowing element around it. So yeah, 11th hour will be one of the games, and it will be probably a long-running game for October. And now I need to find some kind of more standard AAA game, that type of game that actually there's no reason to play that right now. I don't think I have enough to play this. Yeah, I don't. So yeah, I need to record probably at least one AAA game, and that's more of a horror game. I think Condemned Criminal Origins might be one option. Also, I want to play The Enemy Within 2, since that game was gifted to me, and I just cannot bear to sleep on that and have another year where a fan graciously gifted me a game and then I didn't get around to playing it. So that's the top priority too. So there's kind of an old AAA game and a newer AAA game. That would give me 3 time slots. If I can get through some of those games fairly quickly, maybe I could put something on the back half of October to do some more horror games as far as point and click adventures and such, or simplistic things. October is still going to be a month that is going to have 3 or 4 things airing a day, because there's just always more horror games than there is, even during the second horror month, which I think we'll probably still stick with. So somewhere in February, maybe even January, we'll just have a second Halloween, when times are slow anyways. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing. Also, I guess I should warn that right now it's storming, so I guess it's always the case that power might go out or my internet might go out, but I have a small reason why more power or more internet might go out. It's really really important, I suppose, to see, to I guess go ahead and just keep on playing. And yep, we have slightly more news today, so we should probably just jump into it. Allegedly, and I'll just leave it at allegedly, there's a hacker slash bot maker that has found some new way to hack YouTube channels and take control of them and then build up his own channel. So allegedly, from what I hear, this guy has like 3 videos and thousands of views and such, and it has to do with a comment that is popping up that says "want to be friends," which it's definitely not uncommon to get random spam bots that say "want to be friends" on my videos. So apparently interacting with that at all somehow triggers it. I don't know how that would be the case, and it seems like, from what allegedly is going on, has something to do with the Discord API, which I don't know if I ever even associated my Discord that I made and then pretty much immediately abandoned. I did go back into it just the other day and look to see if anybody logged in or done anything, and no. Even the person who was a fan who helped me set it up, his Discord was seemingly pretty much dead. Let's see. This one has Death Touch. Let's go ahead and play that on that. And that was a mistake. But let's see. Activate ability, I suppose. Now give him +3/+3. And then that'll let me attack with this one fairly safely. So yeah, slight concern there. Maybe I will not heart and thumbs up some comments, particularly if people are just putting kind of generic comments. Definitely a lot of comments feel like they are spammers that says "love the video, keep it up, great work," things like that. Like I kind of don't even I have no reason to really even complain about spam bots that are saying positive things. Like, for all the horrible internet troll spam bots out there, something just trying to spread love, even if it is just an automated process and there's no human sentiment actually behind it, is something that I'm kind of happy to see. Like, because yeah, the world could use some more positivity. Darn it. He's gonna play some trick. I figured he would. See, this draws a card, you lose life equal to the number of cards in your hand.
If I were you, I'd just surrender right now. Smelly, but effective.
And see, we can just keep on creating zombies now. I'm hoping I just win here and we can be done with this Friday Night Magic. These Friday Night Magics aren't thought through, clearly. There needs to be some improvement. Everything is really going crazy with the whole pandemic thing, so it seems like lockdowns will just be longer than anybody thought or anybody hoped, and seems like people are going crazy. And I would say there's been at least a couple of what I would call more liberal SJW people and California people that are now flipping out as much as the more right-wing conservative people were flipping out due to being told to self-quarantine and locking down. So it seems like really it was just a matter of a week or two before the self-isolation just completely took the mental toll of everybody.
This looks like a fun new toy.
So yeah. Wait a minute. Why did that one token creature zombie army? These are token zombies. A mass puts a counter on an army you control. Oh, so it has to be an army unit, not a zombie unit. Interesting. So what I'm doing right now actually isn't going to help me too much. Well, hoping that he'll just play something. He's trying to play Nicol Bolas, which he always sucks as a character. I don't know if there's a better way to fix this, because I'm not going to get 13 turns for sure.
All will bow
See,
before
draw a card to destroy target creature. Each opponent who doesn't control legendary creature or planeswalker loses the game. So see, he just has to build up to 8. So he has 4 turns to get to his win scenario. Whereas I could start to force this guy to sacrifice 2 creatures after this attack and try and get rid of a couple. I need to just attack with everything to Nicol Bolas and try and kill him as quickly as possible.
You are all so generous.
What does this someone do? Puts a 1/1 counter on it. Then creates a bunch more. Okay. So we need this out of the way. So I think what we do here and here is probably our best bet. That's gonna have me draw a card.
Anyway.
Well, I'm not gonna be able to put any more color commentary on here, so let's start covering the news. We have a game here called Fusion Shift on Steam. Steam did come out with a new feature called Play Next. This looks just like a platformer. It maybe has a little bit more polish on the interface and the tile sets than some of the worst games I've seen, but it's still not good enough. It's discounted to $3.59 English only. See, I do have this idea, this thought that I would like to see. Flying triple. Okay. I'm gonna put this on the field because I have nothing better to do. I'm gonna put this on the field to bring back this card because I have nothing better to do. Then I'm gonna draw a card and take 1 damage. And then I'm going to go ahead and just attack with everything, with maybe the exception of this. Nope, let's just attack with everything for Nicobolus. And see, I don't want to think this stuff through, so of course I might be making a mistake here. But it does seem like he's running into some problems. TechRaptor has an article. Under Hero takes you from zero to hero. This looks like an advertisement for a new game that feels maybe a little bit inspired by Undertale, but more action-y. Let's see. Apparently it's still in development by the looks of it.
Waste not, want dev. I'll find a use for you later.
Okay. Now. Sacrifice 2 creatures.
You would be more useful in the grave.
So, here we go.
They were a lousy servant anyway.
And now we have set ourselves up quite nicely, and he has just Nicobolus, or Bolus Citadel, which I guess is Nicobolus's Citadel. I did not realize that.
Everything is power, and I
Waste
am
not, want
everything.
dev. Is in
Let's
life.
see. Okay. So we've got this we want on the field. We've got this we want on the field. Go ahead and resolve that, I suppose. Create a zombie black token.
Good mindless minion.
The main thing I want to keep an eye on is this guy. He's down to 1, so it'd be quite a while. He's kind of lost. Probably through just me getting a little lucky. And I think I kind of have won. Exile a card in your hand or a permanent you control. Okay, well. Let's see. Let's go ahead and get rid of that, I guess.
My intellect is without limit.
Checkraptor has an article here. Discover the beast of Maryvilla Island. If I am going to be streaming this late, I need to be more awake. And see, the problem here is I'm asleep. Frankly, a little bit sleepy because I just woke up, not because it's late. This game looks interesting, kind of like a Pokemon Snap type game. I've often felt that there should have been a Pokemon Snap attempt, something more photography based and less fighting based. But with the exclusion of Nintendo. Also, in the previous video, I kind of just shrugged off the fact that Nintendo like DMCA'd the PC port and said, well, the Mario 64 has relatively recently been re-released. I kind of want to change my opinion on that because it really feels like maybe the Wii U was the last time, if not the Wii, that you could actually play Mario 64. So it has been longer than I thought it was, and there's certainly a fact of there just being no support for the Wii or the Wii U anymore. So even if it has been kind of a couple years, and I'm not sure it was even on the Wii, or and if it wasn't on the 3DS or something. So yeah, it's a matter of millimeters in this case, I would say, but I think Nintendo probably is closer to the line of being abandonware as far as the Mario 64 games and the Nintendo 64 games. And when you get away from Mario 64 in particular, there's definitely a lot of Nintendo 64 games that have never been republished that were first-party Nintendo titles. Like Mario Kart 1, for instance, you really can't make an argument that they ever republished that game instead of just constantly making sequels. So yeah, I reserve the right to change my mind upon thinking it through or getting new information always. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Tales from Off-Peak City Volume 1. This looks slightly interesting, but it's kind of just asset flippy and weird by the looks of it. It looks very surreal. And the fact that it's a Volume 1 is part of the problem. Let's see, it kind of feels like it would be a point-and-click adventure. The text here is pretty bad. Volume 1 is the demo, where the whole game is also out. It's English only. It's set in the same universe as both the Norwood Suite and Off-Peak, Cosmo D's previous games. So let's look at this guy's previous games. We have a game that's rated very positively. Interesting. So I guess maybe I'll put all of these on the fall list and think about it. Any target and you gain 3 life. You may have a deal 2 damage to another creature you control. If you do, draw a card. Nope, I think not on that one. But I will go ahead and attack with this. Off-Peak is rated very positively. If we look here. Off-Peak is rated very positively because it's a free game. And then it has a soundtrack. I should probably worth mentioning, I remember actually seeing this video with these creepy 2 girls sitting next to each other. So even some of these really low effort weird games seem to have some influence. Can I play this? No. 3 damage to any target, gain life, alright. So yeah, what I would argue here is that Off-Peak, because it's free, got rated very positively as a weirdo story. And then Tales from the City, though, wants $8.99. So there's this establishment of, yeah.
Welcome to my world of nightmares.
there's an establishment of releasing 2 like low effort games for free, and then that being a thing that would eventually allow you to make some money. And I guess that is the idea of what a lot of people try to do, but I don't know if I agree with it. Okay, so what do we want to do? This one's gonna just try to get rid of all my cards, so I'm gonna just go ahead and attack here, attack with this one, and attack with this one. The Norwood Suite, the other game here, is $9.99, but the deluxe edition, including the soundtrack, is even higher. I don't think so, though. I think this is just too much weirdness, too much just asset flippy ness. Yeah, it really feels like one of these games that would only make sense if you were taking drugs while you were playing it. And it feels very much kind of like the 7th Guest and the 11th Hour, which I also wanted to mention. The soundtrack, the music playing in the main menu of the 11th Hour sounds like music from an original soundtrack. There's basically no good music in the actual game when you're playing at all. That's a good card to get. Because when there even is music playing, it's not normalized and balanced to the people speaking, so you can't hear the people speaking most of the time. There's no subtitles in the 11th Hour, and the dialogue is written badly anyways, but you would like to be able to hear it,
but I will
and
it.
There's no way to adjust any audio in game at all. You can't adjust a master volume, you can't adjust the music, you can't adjust the talk, the dialogue. On top of which, it's also incredibly loud. I had it at 2%, and then I maybe had to turn it up a little bit more than that. But at certain points, the audio was kind of all over the place. Alright, green or red spells is our next thing, and sometime next week we will do a quick draft, I guess, with the War of the Spark. That's the one that's 5,000, and if we were to actually look at the cards that we are missing that are War of Spark, I mean, it's not a great setup, frankly, because these cards are going to go into the historic or just non-standard. I don't know if they actually go into historic. I think they do, but we really are at the point where them offering a draft of War of the Spark is a sucker's bet. But yeah, there's a decent number of cards here to try and get, although questionable how many of them actually matter. And I would be very happy to see things like Nicol Bolas Dragon God leave standard, because that card is kind of difficult to fight against. Alright, so we'll do red test, because I feel like we haven't played red in a while. Then I'm gonna try to speed up in general through the news, because I don't really need this to be a really long stream on a Friday. Here we have a game called Roller Coaster VR Universe, which seems to take you in space and see aliens and take you underwater and on a zombie first-person on-rail shooter element. It seems like it's kind of all over the place. Like there are some arcade games certainly that were on-rail shooters where you're shooting zombies or dinosaurs or going on just virtual roller coaster things. But the fact that they're offering so much variety here is a mistake, particularly when you look at the price at $269 discounted. English is its only language also. So you know that these rides are going to be less than 10 minutes long. You know they're not going to be that good. Even like Carnival, which is the arcade game that I recall, where you're on rails shooting zombies. Even Carnival though has wasn't that long. It was just one of those arcade games designed so that you could waste a lot of quarters because you take damage no matter what. And that's probably why Carnival has never been ported to like PC or anything, because playing with a mouse would probably be very easy, and the entirety of the game would probably be very short, but it should be ported. It has enough nostalgia around it to justify being ported. Alright, next we have a game on Steam called Antidote, which seems like you get kidnapped and thrown into a almost like Saw-like escape the room experience. The video is, the trailer here is interesting. You see this guy walking, you see a shoe, you see a white van, and inside of it you see a guy who's tied up, and you get kidnapped. But then after that point it's just all animated hover hands. And this is VR for $12.99. It's English and French. It's probably not the worst VR game ever. Just to generally speak. Okay. Like, I literally can't do anything, so I'm just gonna end the turn because I can't play this and this to destroy this, and even if I could play these two, it's just gonna kill this one creature, and clearly I need to do more than just kill one creature. Let's see. But I guess if I could put this on the field, then I have my creature ready to go. So yeah, I'll put Antidote on the follow list. Apparently I need to log back into Steam, so I'm gonna have all these tabs left open and have to deal with that later. Let's see, target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. I mean, that would kill this guy. And then put this on the field, I guess. And then just not attack. Now, I don't know if there's really value in talking about Gamma Sutra, talking about Valve launching a Play Next feature to help Steam users choose their next game. Because, yeah, them saying a short recap of what the blog post says is kind of pointless, when we could just go to the blog post and get it straight from Valve's own mouth. It says, using machine learning to make informed suggestions, the feature is designed to help users with extensive libraries decide which games to play next. I might make decent use of this feature. It does seem like that would probably be a usable helper when I am in a position where I just kind of don't have a clue as far as what I want to do. Let's see. 3 damage to this character. I'm playing the cards, but am I doing enough damage? That's the question. It says users who have unplayed or very low playtime games in the libraries will now have a Play Next shelf available in the library. So just up here. I may have even seen this, and it'll be interesting. I guess what we could do, just for giggles, is let me just go to my library on Steam and see if I see a Play Next. Okay. So the Play Next library, which I think we can probably just bring over here and show. Doesn't want to quite work for my resolutions right now, but okay. Play Next library says I should play Grim Fandango, Batman Arkham Knight, which is not true. I should play Arkham City God of the Year. Murder Soul Suspect. That's a game I didn't fully know. They want me to play the Stanley Parable because I play it on a different account. And I just don't have time. Batman the Telltale series, that was one. Night of the Rabbit, not so much. The Room 3, Hellblade Sooners, Sacrifice. Should get around to that. A lot of these are just like, yeah, these were on the list. Witcher 1, Randall's Monday is probably one of the few ones there that I wouldn't just immediately go, yeah, you're right about that. The original Thief game, Soma. Thief is a little weird. The Swapper I should play. Fallout New Vegas. I don't know if I have all the DLC for that. Alien Isolation seems a weird choice. Castle of Illusion. Undertale. Like, a lot of these are kind of obvious games that no duh. Fallout 4. Alan Wake's American Nightmare. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of games there that were on my playing list as far as just these are the next games you're thinking about playing or playing some more of. But my own individualized playing list here is a little bit longer, certainly, and there's definitely some things like the Indiana Jones point and click adventure series that they have not mentioned, or It'll Do Too wasn't on that list. Lego games, no Lego games were mentioned. The Lego Ninjago games, by the way, are like is currently free, so I'm gonna see if I already own that and make sure I get it. Yeah, another horror game I'm going to try and play is Zero Escape to Non-Horror games. I'm trying to have more of a balance of the more Asian style horror games too. It doesn't really boil down that long list of Asian horror games if I don't cover any of those in October. So yeah, the Play Next feature seems good. It's really going to come down to just how much of a YouTube algorithm is it really, and can it make good suggestions, or is it just going to all turn into like what the YouTube algorithm is now, where it's being messed with a lot, and by being messed with a lot, they are manipulating things, and thus you get CNN and Tonight Show clips at the top of the trending page and thrown in your face on YouTube, even though nobody really wants to see any of that on YouTube. I don't think I'm gonna win here, but I'll play cards. So I can't complain too much. Deal 2 damage. Equal to the number of lands you control. Well, this would do a lot of damage, sure. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. And keep that, even though I may not be able to play this. This is the one you're supposed to cycle, right? If you cycle it a couple times, it comes to the field. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Humble's indie game publishing biz is now just called Humble Games. I'm a little surprised they didn't change the name faster, because remember, Humble was purchased, I think, by Indie Gala or some other company. So they kept it mostly. They have kept it mostly as a individual company, and they haven't tried to push people into doing something that into buying more games and buying it from the other bundle store. Maybe it wasn't Indie Gala. It may have very well been a different company. And they did kind of change the name of that company, but I wasn't really doing business with that company, so that really affects how much I cared about that story. On a bigger note, I would say the Humble Bundle publishing arm hasn't been very successful, and probably isn't likely to be very successful. It really is just following a trend of a lot of people trying to be publishers without really having the skills or the chops or the just proven experience to be publishers. You saw that with like Starbreeze also. Starbreeze Software tried a lot of that, instead of working on their own game, Payday. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. Doom Eternal Update 1 is now available. It brings Empowered Demons, Precious Metals events, campaign updates, and more. Oddly, I think Doom Eternal didn't have that snap map multiplayer stuff, but it had some kind of multiplayer stuff, so like I don't think you design levels using snap map, or you can design levels at all. But they still are kind of just pushing some kind of online element. It also adds de novo to the game, so if the Doom Eternal starts running worse after this de novo add-in, that would be a great bit of proven fact that de novo makes games worse, because the constant argument by de novo is that it doesn't, and the constant argument by other people is it does, or at least it does very often, because they implement de novo poorly. Should have probably discarded a card and drawn a card there. Let's see. Battle mode. Yep. Personally, I really feel no pressure to play Doom Eternal anytime soon. Like, it'll be a fine game, I'm sure, if not a better game a year from now, and the price will probably be much more in line with my desire, as I only want to play them main story, and kind of barely even want to do that. But yeah, I would say after playing the first Doom reboot, it does kind of feel like the experience you get jumping around and in 3D shooting feels a little different from the experience you got playing the original Doom. Like, I don't know how you translate that captured lightning in a bottle. I don't know how you fix it so that Doom 2016 feels like the original Doom, but it definitely doesn't feel like the same experience. And I think a lot of that probably has more to do with the level design is better in the first game than the reboot, and the encounters in the first game compared to the reboot are more designed as a challenge. Like in the original Doom game, it's like you enter a room, those enemies are always going to be in the same place. It's kind of like a puzzle you have to figure out as to how to survive and win. In Doom 2016, people are just spawning all over the place, and I don't know if that was scripted in such a way that if you played the same encounter twice in a row, you would have they would appear in the same place, or if it's just a little bit randomized. It'd be kind of interesting to see a speed run of that, but not that interesting. In the first game, running around and trying to find secrets was nice, and kind of necessary. Like, I don't think you're gonna have a great experience if you just did a zero secrets run on the original Doom game. I'd also argue that since most people didn't play the later levels of Doom 1 or Doom 2, that all that nostalgia really is just in the first chapter, the first episode of the shareware part of Doom 1. And it really is just a thing of its time. And yeah, I don't know how you really fix Doom at all. Like, I don't know how you do anything better than the remake did, and the remake did a very good job. I don't want to downplay that, but I don't know if you can make it feel like the original Doom. Because, in all fairness, what the original Doom was it was groundbreaking, so something closer to Fortnite is the equivalent of the original Doom. And that's a kind of silly thing to say, but it kind of exactly is the case. Like kids today will be playing Fortnite, and they'll be dancing and flossing and getting skins, and they'll be running around building and shooting and taking out other players. And that level of nostalgia, potentially in a decade or two, we'll probably have a reboot or remake of Fortnite, much like Doom's reboot or remake. So, yeah, it probably wouldn't have been a bad idea if there had been some level of experimentation to have more online play, more free-to-play elements around the Doom universe. But you also kind of run into an asynchronous multiplayer situation where you're going to play as demons that will be stronger than the Doom guy, or you're going to have to play as a team and take on AI Doom creatures, which that wouldn't be terrible. Let's see, number of lands I control. Well, that would work. 3 damage to any target, and then Scry 1 is probably our best bet. See. Can I activate this ability? This normally would take 2, but it only takes 1 now because of this. Next we have a game on Steam called Super Highball, which is a pinball kind of Sonic Spinball clone using some just low polygon assets. Now I'm a little bit of a sucker for pinball, so I kind of think this might be interesting, particularly since it's taking the concept of at least the first level in Sonic Spinball, where you are trying to get from point A to point B using a pinball and flippers instead of just staying on a platform like a standard play pinball table and trying to get the highest score. The video really explains it a lot better than any of the stills. So it's basically a platformer and pinball with lasers to avoid, which this could get very frustrating very fast, but it's an interesting idea. $10.79, English only, third-party EULA. I'll put this on the follow list. We'll see what people have to say, because this could also certainly play terrible. And this could just be somebody was trying some concept and they failed miserably at it. Let's see. 4 damage to target. Let's go and play this. 3 damage to thing with reach, I guess. And we'll take that. And then destroy target artifact, or 4 damage to flying creature, or cycle. Just end the turn. Okay. At least a platformer slash pinball game is trying to do something interesting. Okay. Destroy target artifact, creature, enchantment, which I can't do anything about, so that's just dead. Next we have a game on Steam called Call of Corona Micro Warfare. This looks like it's a troll game, and we're starting to see more games with live action full motion video intros. But yeah, this seems like it's mostly a joke game, just a first-person shooter asset flip. Looks like it's scaled from more of a mobile phone. It's $3.99, English only, full audio. I suppose that might be true in that case, because if you're going to see videos, it would have some full audio in it. But yeah, not making it to the follow list. Next we have a game called Godless Tactics, which looks like a turn-based strategy, perhaps with some, like, Vikings? Like, see the problem here, I would say, is it's a kind of a common insult to say Vikings, comics, Celtics, Norwegian people, anybody who's has any of the pagan religions and isn't following some Judeo-Christian religion. It was a common insult to call them godless heathens, and they said the same thing about Native Americans, and it's just like, depends on what you mean by God, because a lot of those cultures definitely did have gods. Just not the one that is mentioned in the Judeo-Christian beliefs. So it feels a little bit insulting as a name, and it doesn't feel like it's helpful as a descriptive. When you actually look at the game, it looks pretty bad. It just has a bunch of text on the screen, which makes it almost feel like a Chinese game, despite it being what looks like Viking people. It looks kind of mobile-y with this intern button. It's $6.29. It's English only. Yeah, there's kind of just nothing there that looks good. Now, if you were going to make a game and call it Godless Tactics, I think at that point you have to really embrace the idea of just like a straight up like communist atheist country. Like if the game was something like USSR or Stalin or something like that, then like the Godless Tactics might make sense. Like China certainly is a communist atheistic state. So then you could say Godless, or you can even make the general misnomer, and I don't think too many people would be upset, where you just have a bunch of demons and like satanic things pop up, and then you could have Godless Tactics. So if you made something like Dungeon Keeper but way more hardcore and you called that Godless Tactics, that kind of works. Although if you are going down the satanic routes, you are at that point admitting that there is a Judeo-Christian God, because Satan, Lucifer, all of that are only established in the Bible. So you're kind of admitting that it exists. You just don't listen to him or follow his teachings or desires. But yeah, I think that would work. Okay. It's kind of clearly obvious I'm supposed to be cycling a lot more in this deck. If there was any experiment actually in this deck to win, like it's fairly obvious. Next we have a game on Steam called Get Gym, which is a very basic name of a game. Looks like it's an asset flip hotel with gyms just lying around, and you're just wandering around looking for them. But it seems like there's kind of no danger or anything, and it just seems like they asset flipped a couple of 3D models of women, and I wouldn't even be surprised if these gyms don't randomly appear in different places, and if they're just always in the same place. Apparently, one of these characters is 13 years old. Is this one supposed to be 13 years old and this one's supposed to be 23 years old? Like, because those legs, I would say, are rather long for a 13-year-old. And that hair, bright red hair, kind of uncommon for that length for a 13-year-old. This is 67 cents. It's clearly a low effort game. Bunch of weird achievements and a bunch of languages it supports. Let's see. I finally put this on the field. The way this is even phrased is badly written. Manipulate a 13-year-old Saya and 23-year-old Saya to find jewelry in her grandfather's mansion in the countryside. A light game for all ages, not for core gamers or shooters. It's like, yeah. So, both of them are named Saya, or you're jumping backwards and forwards in time. Finding gems in a mansion. No monsters, no real struggle there. Obviously that game is not going to make it to the fall list. Next, TechRaptor has an article, Dealing in Feelings, Dogs and Dates in Best Friend Forever. Is this the dating game where you are trying to find a pet, basically, instead of date? Or you're finding a pet and dating? It says, find a dog, find a date who loves the dog, then find a happy life together. Interesting. I kind of get that, too. Like, I'm a fan of pets. I'm a fan of dogs. I could certainly put up with a cat. So, and I certainly would understand that if somebody had a pet, that you would want them to have a certain level of care and love for the pets, for your pet, as an extension of the things you own and the people you care for. In the same way that you would want somebody that you were dating and potentially were going to try to live forever with to have a certain affinity or love or at least respect for your family, for the things you own, the things you care about. Maybe not your family in all cases even. If you hate your family, there's really no reason that you then require a potential mate to like your family. But most people won't go that far. So yeah, that sounds like an interesting dating simulator. I don't know if that really brings in a lot of new people to the idea of a dating simulator just by adding a pet. It really is just a bit of a twist, and it's just a small twist. Also, I'm sure plenty of other visual novel romance games have had experience where some of the characters have pets. Particularly in Japan, it's slightly more common, I think, to not have pets. And so that might explain a small lacking of stories around that, since it's mostly the Japanese that are making romance visual novels. So yeah, there might be fewer stories there than you probably on average should have. Next, we have a game on Steam here called A New Life, which seems like when your loved one hurts you, what do you do? A classic love story about letting go. So it seems like what you do is you go back in time and replay it in your head, the events of this romance, this girl and girl romance, and try to learn to let go, I guess, because I don't think you can actually end up in a winning scenario. Although the art style here is very pastel and watercolory. It's $2.99, and then it has a fan pack for $4.99. It says it has full audio, 5 endings, 90 minutes of playtime, so pretty short. It's available on cell phones and probably would have worked a little bit better to stay on a cell phone and not be compared to all the other visual novels out there. It is rated positively, so put this on the follow list and think about it. Certainly it would be a short romance visual novel, so if I am ever to get around to that point, this would be an easy one to do, and it would be a Western one. At least it looks Western in theme and focus. So then you don't have the problem of the people who hate the anime moe art style. But yeah, honestly, I don't think there is a lot of people out there that say they hate the anime moe art style to the point they won't play any games that look like that, but they're really, really interested in playing a visual novel or a romance dating game. Like, I just don't buy that there's a significant number of people out there like that, because it probably would boil down to openness to new experiences. There's this mental thing
speak
called like the
softly,
5-factor
but I carry a
model,
big
and one of
sword.
them is openness to new experiences. And if you're not mentally a personality type that's open to new experiences, then you probably wouldn't be open to playing a new style of game that you're unfamiliar with, or look at a game that has a new animation style that you're unfamiliar with. So, yeah. And if there was a big audience out there, you would kind of assume that somebody would have tried to grab that market and succeed in similar ways that like Viz tried to make mangas
Quick on the draw.
themselves and basically ended up just making webtoons, and they only a few of them ever really sold compared to the decades long established market that is of manga in Japan. Most of them completely rejected, and now we're having a small instance of some Korean webtoons actually being brought up to the level of animes made from Japanese mangas, and they're getting their own little anime series and live action spin-offs. But I think particularly there will probably only be 3 or 4, maybe half a dozen, maybe a dozen things that are actually successful from the webtoon era. To also, there have been some comic webtoons that have been going on for decades, and they are good enough that they deserve their own like books, certainly, but there's not enough of them, and they're not good enough that they deserve their own cartoon series or TV series or animated Netflix series or something like that. Sometimes the format you publish in locks you to stay into that format, and I'd say more often than not, the format you choose to initially publish in locks you into that format. Let's see. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. The co-op dungeon crawler Blightbound has been announced for Steam Early Access. Another game that apparently from Devolver Digital. Devolver Digital has been up and down as far as their publishing. I kind of like this art style. But a lot of Devolver Digital's games are short and a little weird and just not really capable of being much more. Yeah, this looks like a beat 'em up game. So, yeah, it really would just come down to they're calling it a co-op dungeon crawler. I'd call it a beat 'em up game, but if it's a dungeon crawler, that would play slightly different, I guess. So I don't want to bring this back on the field because then this would make this a 4. And if it's a 4, this could activate. So I need to be fairly certain I know what I'm doing first before I do that. Yeah, I'm not sure if a dungeon crawler game could gain major popularity. I just don't think they're the type of games that most people want. Yeah. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. Ubisoft beats its Q4 forecast thanks in no small part to player recurring investments, as in-app purchases and DLC and things like that. Which is definitely what Ubisoft has been focusing on, so it really shouldn't be a surprise that that's where they're making money. It is kind of a snake eating its own tail. You can say, well, they're making all their money from microtransactions and DLC because that's what they're focusing on, therefore that's what they're making all their money on. It still feels very possible in my mind to run a business that just sells a product in its completeness and make a profit. Same as long as you are careful about how you run your business and not wasteful. I would think a lot of the multiplayer DLC content is fairly wasteful content. Okay. And couldn't have used that, so we'll see how this works, because he's now going to try to use this ability, and then I'm going to have to use Witch's Oven on this to get to food tokens. Next we have a game on Steam called Your Human is Sick, which looks like it's probably just another low effort trying to get on the bandwagon of the pandemic type game. It's free, it's English only. It looks terrible. And I may just go back to sleep after this stream. TechRaptor has an article here. Neo 2 gets a photo mode and 9 new missions. I need to do this if I want to do this right, so we come over here. That should give us 2 food tokens. So Neo and Neo 2 are out, and it's Ghost of Tsushima. I guess that's not out yet, and apparently there's a DLC that's also coming out for Neo. Right. Can we win here? So currently we would do 2, 4, 5 damage, and then another 10. So I've kind of lost. If he can attack me and do 5 damage, and I don't know how to turn this around. I'm just too close. I'm trying to win. Trying to get some ranked wins. Now everything has vigilance. Everything has flying, so... Okay, well... Since we're gonna lose anyways, we'll choose to lose on our own terms. Yep. So no victory there. Victories are pretty much all we're trying to get. could not play standard, but we might as well try. Next, we have a game on Steam called Just Like Golf, which looks like a human physics thing. I saw a video talking about Half-Life 1 Source, where they ported Half-Life 1 to the Source engine, which I thought Half-Life 1 was on the Source engine anyway, so I don't know what engine it was actually originally on, and how that port was really, really bad. So, I don't have anything else to say there, but it was apparently not the way to play Half-Life 1. Clearly, now with Black Mesa, that's the way to play Half-Life 1. This is $2.99 in English only, this game, and yeah, just looks like a low-effort experiment more than anything with human physics. Tech Raptor has an article, Rock of Age 3 Make and Break has been delayed. I kind of would like to know, it's been delayed several weeks until July 21st, 2020. I would kind of like to know the number of years in between Rock of Ages 1, which kind of came out out of nowhere, and Rock of Ages 2, and then Rock of Ages 3. If I think about it, it feels like I can remember that Rock of Ages 2 was delayed also. And it's just such a niche game that I totally understand how it would be hard to kind of justify making a game like that and trying to sell a game like that and having it be successful. I guess I probably buried the lead a little bit. A new Paper Mario game has been announced, according to Tech Raptor and others. Paper Mario the Origami King has been announced for the Nintendo Switch. Now remember, they did say a lot of old Mario games and new Mario games were going to come out due to the year of Mario, 25th anniversary, 30th anniversary, whatever Mario. So I don't want to really play a Nintendo trailer for fear that they'll illegally claim a trailer as copyrighted. But from this one screenshot, you can see this looks like a much bigger area, revamped area of Paper Mario games, Mario All-Stars games. There was, if I recall correctly, a bit of a fight between the third-party company that developed Mario All-Stars, and that's why they went to the Paper Mario series, and it's almost exactly the same game, but there are a few mechanics and elements and just feelings of how the Mario All-Stars game played compared to the Paper Mario series. Mario All-Stars also introduced a lot of new characters and new bosses, and the Paper Mario games maybe had a single unique bad guy, but Bowser was always in the mix somewhere. And so they I think stayed a little bit more to the canon of the Mario universe. And there's plenty of Mario characters, so they wouldn't want to expand it. I don't think Gino is gonna show up somewhere in this new Paper Mario game, although that would probably be very welcome if it did. OpenCritic has an article here. EVE Online has been announced because they can't do EVE Evo. It's Evo Online because they can't have the fighting games in person. They picked several games that don't have any major issues with netcode, and they're going to do it online. So it'll be Street Fighter V, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, Tekken 7, Soul Calibur 6, Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Samurai Showdown, and Under Night Birth EX Late CLR. What's not getting mentioned here are the things like Smash Brothers. Isn't that, yeah, isn't that what the game's name is? Smash Brothers? Yeah. the Nintendo game that really could only be played in first person because there's no netcode for it, and I imagine some other games. And yeah, some of the famous fighters that go to EVO each year are saying they don't want to play online because they don't want to deal with the network issues, which, depending on where you live, that could be a big issue. Or it's just a good excuse for them to not be involved and say, well, this year doesn't count anyways. It works both ways. They could play, and then if they lost, they could say, well, I only lost because of all these extenuating circumstances. Speaking of winning, apparently there was a Pokemon digital card game tournament, and some 10-year-old won it first time they'd even played Pokemon, so it really goes to show how random that game is. I think it was a Pokemon digital card tournament. It may have been a Pokemon regular game. Either way, I'm just gonna go ahead and attack because it doesn't really make sense to play Taste of Death. Well, if I had known what I know now, I suppose. On top of EVO, they're going to have some open tournaments with Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath, Kill Instinct, them fighting herds, and Skullgirls 2. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was removed from EVO Online. So specifically Smash Bros. Ultimate. I don't follow the fighting game tournaments, and I would like to get deep enough in the fighting games to kind of understand it, but that's pretty much it. Like, I don't want to become an expert in fighting games by any means, and I definitely wouldn't become an expert in fighting games. So, alright, well, this is gonna wreck me. I might as well attack. And he can defend with whatever he wants. I could have also tilted the guy. Actually, that would have been smarter, but then that would have used all my mana. So, probably wouldn't be smarter. They brought it back. Darn it. Alright, well. We'll have to see if we can play here. If we can survive long enough. Nope, I've lost. I see. Okay, well, TT Games has the Lego Ninjago movie game available for free. So if you want it for PC, you click here, and then it's on Steam, and you can add it to your account for free. And it seems like this is one of those games that doesn't have any DLC, because some of these Lego games certainly have gotten pretty bad about having DLC in them. On a bigger element, I think the reason why the Ninjago Lego game is free is because I hate to say it, and this is gonna be bad news to any kids that love Ninjago. I think they're giving up on Ninjago, and Lego is. I think they're moving on to Monkey Kid, which they just announced a bunch of sets for the Monkey Kid. expansion, which is very Chinese oriented and Chinese focused. But it doesn't really make a lot of sense that Ninjago, which has been this long running yet very successful series, it doesn't make sense that that's going to continue to go for much longer, and then they're going to establish the Monkey Kid. They might play it both ways and see which one sells better, but I think they're going to try and push people to Monkey Kid. And probably there might be some writers, some voice actors, some elements in those cartoons that have just increased the cost of making Ninjago content to the point where it's no longer worth their time to maintain that series. Ninjago and Monkey Kid are both like IPs owned by Lego, so there's no difference there. It also could just be something as basic as there is a new person in charge and they want something new that they can say they did, and they want to cancel something old that they didn't start, so they don't want to give credit to the last person in charge. A lot of times it is just that crazy and that political when running a business. Moving on, Gematsu has an article, Reverse Collapse Codename Bakery preview trailer, a tactical turn-based RPG game based on Girls Frontline, which this screenshot I would not assume was from a game called Girls Frontline. I guess Girls Frontline might be a mobile game. I've certainly installed a bunch of Android games and tried them, and you have kind of a sharper edge image here, and it seems like there's a guy and he's sniping people and there's militaristic. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot more guys than I am girls. There's just this one girl that you don't see. Alright, there's a girl. Maybe that's a girl, but I don't know. Here we have one girl and then another guy. I think the name here might be a little misplaced. Typically in an anime-esque game like this, you would have a significant amount of girls, and I'm not seeing that. So So yeah, I don't know if there's really a game there of any interest. It's for the Switch, smartphones, and PCs, and it looks kind of generic, like a lot of mobile games. So I wouldn't suspect that I'd want to play it much. Next we have a game on Steam called Inner World, which kind of looks like a clone of Jill of the Jungle, a platformer adventure where you have a girl running around in kind of a loincloth, it looks like. She's a she-wolf apparently, and can turn into a wolf. Alright. She-wolf. I don't know why you call them she-wolves. What's the difference between a she-wolf and a werewolf? Maybe she-wolves turn into actual wolves. This definitely feels a lot like Jill of the Jungle. It's $5.99. It's English only. Apparently has 3 episodes in it. It kind of feels like a game that would have come out in the late 90s, mid 90s. But it seems to have come out just now. And I certainly could try to make an argument to say this is ugly. This isn't the best way I've seen these old 8-bit animation happen, but it's not terrible either. So yeah, I'm willing to put that on the follow list and maybe get some more information. Attack. Next, Gamma Sutra has an article. The Sumo Group, which I've heard about them, has acquired the UK work for hire studio Lab 42, which is not a company I've heard of. Let's see, they worked on projects with people like Sega Publishing of Europe, Clay Entertainment, Aspire, Ripstone, and worked on games like Yakuza 0, Sonic Mania, and TerraTech. Okay. Also own the exclusive license to World Snooker Tour brand. Let's see. Sumo owns a number of other studios, including Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, developer The Chinese Room, Little Big Planet 3, maker Sumo Digital, and God of War Remastered co-developer Red Kite Games. So it does seem like Sumo Group as a company is trying to be the UK Ubisoft, the UK EA. The UK probably does need at least one big AAA development publishing company. Although it is often seemingly hard for the UK to maintain enough stability and enough freedom, for lack of a better term, to run any business in their country. Plus, working out of London is like working out of New York, but worse. It's as expensive as New York, but with less people that make good contacts. A great example of the UK being a nanny state and taking away freedoms is that in the middle of the pandemic, the newest prime minister, which they seem to change very often, has declared war on like trans fats. Which, okay, that seems like that probably shouldn't be a focus. I mean, unless they could come out with some like BS scientific study that said trans fats, or fats and oils in particular, are making people worse due to COVID-19. Which is probably true. Just in general, being unhealthy probably doesn't help when a virus attacks. OpenCritic has an article here. A satirical firefighting game, Ember, hits Stadia and PC next week, so that seems like that'll probably be our monthly reminder that Stadia exists. So, looks like a game where you're playing as a fireman. I don't know what the satirical part about it is. If it's the idea that everybody is an idiot and that's why they're setting their houses on fire, that's fine. I imagine you do catch a bunch of people on the toilet in the middle of a fire. This looks like a good game. I've wanted to play a firefighting game where you play as a firefighter, and the closest I've found are not really anywhere close to an actual firefighting game. You get to play a lot of games where you kind of act as a police. Not even too many of those. You get tons of games where you get to play as a military, but very rarely a firefighter. And I don't know if there's ever been a case where you play as an EMS in particular, like a ambulance person. So, some of these first responder jobs make a lot of sense. There's probably fewer games where you play as a police because it gives the player a lot more freedom to play as a criminal, and criminals and the police effectively have the same authority and same goals in video game world because you're just running around shooting people more often than not. With the exception of like the SWAT games where you actually are having to follow SWAT tactics and police procedure. Playing as a police officer in most games means you're playing as a either corrupt police officer or someone who's just given carte blanche to shoot everybody. I suppose there was that one game that you were interviewing people, and even that didn't turn out as good as it probably should have. Forget the name of that game, but it was made by the developers of Red Dead Redemption and GTA. I'm hoping this will potentially scare him away and make him concede fairly quickly. But it kind of doesn't matter either, because if I can just survive the next turn and play this and then activate this, this probably will work for me. I probably should activate this, though, in case I want to defend with it. Next we have a game on Steam called Elliot and the Musical Journey. This looks like a kid-friendly 3D platformer. It might be a little bit rough on the edges. There might not be enough of a game here, really. But I want to give it a chance. It's a weird name for what looks like a female witch. Unless this is a guy named Elliot with what looks like a skirt on this thing on the thumbnail. Music might be a bit of a problem for me to play. This is free, so I might be at a point where it kind of doesn't matter, and I'll just say go and check it out. I guess the idea is, would they expand it? Here's another game that they just released called Dream State Racing, and yeah, it looks like the rest of their games are kind of garbage, low effort games too. So eSport Test Toolkit, for instance. Yeah, I don't think I can trust this developer, so, or this publisher. It's a shame. It looks like there actually is at least the beginnings of an idea of a game here, but maybe this was just more of a vertical slice, more of a test pitch that went nowhere, and now they're giving it away for free. I think these concepts probably could have been more, certainly. I bet, if I was to guess, there is not a lot of publishers out there that are soliciting new offers for new games. I bet they are being very, very conservative about what they are investing in and who they'll do business with at the moment. And I bet that probably is hurting a lot of new indie developers out there that want to do business with people. Yep, and my chair is starting to get more and more uncomfortable. And I just cannot, with my bad back, move chairs around to try something different. So I'm in a catch-22. Uncomfortable chairs is probably not helping my back heal, and because my back's not healed, I can't move a chair. And it's not really worth it or reasonable to hire somebody to come move furniture for you, particularly in the middle of a pandemic. Okay, we got this if we can get everything we can get everything on the field fairly quickly. Next game we have is called Dream State Racing. It's the other game that they flooded the Steam market with. Well, 2 games at the same time. It's not really flooding the market, but it is definitely bad business. And this does look like it's just a low effort Outrun clone. It too is free in English only. He gave up. Thank goodness for that. It's a little bit harder to tell how many things we have left to talk about, considering because I'm having to leave the tabs open, and we may just need to really lock down and stop playing and instead just cover the news non-stop to wrap up. Here we have a game called Garrison Archangel, which is a mech fighting game. We're seeing a lot of high action. Now, in a lot of ways, high-speed action can be a problem because that seems it seems faster than what I probably could control. So it very well could just be a button mashing game. I feel like I've seen another game that looked exactly like this. And so either I had already put this on the follow list and now it's actually out, or there's just some asset out there that's getting flipped for an Archangel fighting for a mech fighting game. It's rated very positively. It's $11.24, which is kind of a reasonable price for a game that you assume is good. It's English full audio. It seems a little weird, no Japanese language support. And yeah, I'll investigate this and put it on the follow list. And I guess I'll put it on the wish list if it's already on the follow list, because it's not in early access. It does have single player, even though it may not really be focused on single player. That would be another thing I need to investigate. Next we have a game on Steam called Block, which is just a low effort platforming game with blocks. It's free to play, it's English and Chinese. We're still getting cheap Chinese games, more than we were a year or 2 ago. And they're not getting less frequent or better in quality. Although it does sound like Apple is going to pull out of a lot of manufacturing in China. The writing on the wall as far as manufacturing in China has been for a while that it's become cheaper and safer to do business in other countries like the Philippines and India, and particularly separate the countries that you're doing manufacturing in and not have it all your eggs in one basket. And so it would be probably a good thing if Chinese political influence got lost as people continued to do less and less business with them. Now you can get into a deeper economic argument to say that everything probably should be built in your own country, and that way you're paying your own citizens and controlling the labor laws and the working conditions, and importing almost all goods short of things that you just absolutely need, like food, is probably the right way. Just real hardcore protectionism instead of globalism might be a good argument to make. Or like the truth will be in the middle, certainly, that some global economy is good and it's worth it despite the downsides of that, and then a lot of globalism is not good for pretty much anybody. Like, if you think about China from the Chinese people's perspective, if everybody in China was making just products for Chinese people, there would be considerably less demand for low-paying jobs and factory work, and a lot more demand for more high-power high-paying, innovative jobs, and the Chinese government could certainly focus more on that and improving the individual lifestyle of individual Chinese people, instead of the government being focused about just keeping the minimum wage low, if there even is a minimum wage in China, and exporting all that labor to other countries to gain influence. Alright, there goes the creature. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Last Man, which looks like it's a 4-player beat-em-up game. Man, I feel like I'm echoey now. Maybe I'll just turn myself down a little bit. Yeah. Maybe I've gotten a little bit more wind in my sails, as it were. Yeah, Last Man looks uninteresting. It's $9.99. It's English and Spanish from Spain and Latin America. I want to go ahead and block one of these guys. Let me do that. And then that. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Nintendo notes that COVID-19 is delaying Switch production and it might hit game development. I think Nintendo is being the most honest there, if I was to guess, and certainly the other producers of hardware and developers of games should be admitting the same thing. Play this. Go ahead and I guess tap this. I tapped him, but I guess I had summoning sickness, so I couldn't attack. Deal 4 damage, or let him draw 3 cards. Both of those are terrible options. Gamma Sutra has a blog here. Steam's wishlist to sales percentage, thoughts, and a call for data. So apparently this person is looking for people to give them data as far as how many wish-listed games actually get sales in the first week. Generally, it seems fairly obvious that yes, you do want people to use the wishlist system. It's not a pointless system. It does, to some percentage, increase sales in the first few weeks, the initial launch window. I would say it is fair to say that you don't get like emails from Steam or Valve, or I don't ever. So if I got a daily email saying this game on your wish list or this game on your follow list came out, I would probably get more information and be more advertised to and more pushed to actually buying games brand new, which I wouldn't do anyways for almost any game. But Steam kind of just keeps it in your Steam notifications, and even then you don't really get it. So yeah, Valve and Steam could do a lot better with the wishlist and the follow list to promote the information. I don't know if most people would enjoy that, or if most people would just find that really annoying. And for somebody like me who has hundreds, if not thousands, of things on the wishlist and follow list, it would be really hard to do. They'd have to kind of make it digested. Here's the top 10 most discounted games on your wish list today. Here's Here's a random selection of 10 discounted games that are on your wish list. Here's the top games that came out that were on your fall list or wish list, came out of early access, became available for sale. In the end, my experience, and I think a lot of people's experience with Steam, is to get things during the Steam summer sales and the Steam big sales, and so only when things are on sale do I really even want to pay attention. Am I even in the mindset that I want to spend any money? So I try to keep it down to 2 to maybe 4 sales a year to buy something, unless it is a kind of unique, specific game that is likely to not be discounted much more, and I really want to play it. And I've been burned quite a lot when I did buy a game a little bit earlier than I normally would, at less of a discount than I normally would. So that hasn't really helped the situation by playing that way and breaking my own rules. Let's see. I'm gonna tap that guy. Next, we have a game on Steam called Library of Ruina. This is tagged as an action RPG. It kind of looks like a visual novel, but it looks like it's very polished. Okay, over here we definitely are seeing some card-based action RPG elements. And I don't know this developer, Project Moon, but when you look here, you've got like real JRPG elements, horror, graphic violence stuff. Like, looks like this is actually something. It's $24.99. It's Korean full audio, and that might explain why I don't recognize it, is because it's actually a Korean game, which might explain the art style being a little different too. Well, that was my last chance. I think this will be our last game. I can see the beginning of the end of the news, but we still got enough here to spend another 10 or 20 minutes covering the news, and I'm not feeling it. I'll obviously have to play off screen if I want to get all 10 victories, which I should. Like, I kind of need to probably play a little bit over the weekend and get 10 or 15 victories to just get more XP, make sure we get the mastery level done. But we are on, let's see, rank 39, and 15 days until the season ends, and I think probably more than 15 days until this mastery expansion ends. I still think we'll probably make it all the way to 80, and maybe not much further than that. And we may find that it is just more reasonable to be kind of balanced and only get to rank 80, 81, 82 instead of getting potentially to rank 100 and just getting a bunch of uncommon card rewards, wild cards, or just uncommon cards. Because until the next expansion happens, which will be at that point kind of pointless, the uncommon cards that I don't have are kind of few and far between. Let's see. If we look here at standard cards, which I imagine is what that is, there's a lot, I guess, I could still end up getting, but a lot of these cards I don't think are particularly good. I have not gotten to a position where I've seen many cards at all that I've said, boy, do I want another copy of that. Boy, do I want to play that strategy. And that kind of sucks, and it definitely feels a little off compared to Hearthstone, because there definitely were times in Hearthstone, maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks, where I'd see somebody playing a new strategy and say, I want to play that card. I want to figure out what that card does. I want that in my deck. I'm not really seeing that in Magic. The cards just don't seem as valuable or as interesting. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Idle Big Devil, which looks like it's a top-down RPG element. Although if it's idle, it's an idle game. I don't know what they're doing here. And then they've got the big old cleavage window, and clearly this is Chinese. It's free to play with in-app purchases, English and Chinese, so yeah. I don't see anything there worth playing. Gamma Sutra has a job listing. Remedy is hiring a senior programmer for Espoo, Finland. They've been hiring for that for a while. And I guess Gamma Sutra's job board is probably pretty lean right about now. Gamma Sutra also has a blog here, 4 better ways to talk about immersion, which they're breaking down to systems immersion, spatial immersion, empathic social immersion, and narrative sequential immersion. Again, I guess if you were going to develop a game, this might be useful information, but if you never plan on developing a game, knowing this is not going to probably be very useful. And it is really just a blog, is someone's opinion. So I don't know if you should listen to other people's opinion before you've kind of formed your own. I think, and maybe I'm wrong about this, I think when a subject arises, you should probably pause the video, pause reading the blog, think about what your opinion is, at least what your first knee-jerk opinion is on something, before you hear someone say anything different. That way at least you know your baseline, and then you can be convinced away. I don't think it's a smart idea to just go in completely ignorant on a topic and let someone establish your baseline, because they could be establishing you far in left field, like far from the average, far from the norm. Certainly, if I went to a baking class and I knew absolutely nothing about baking, and they told me that you should never use eggs or milk, or you should never use eggs or milk or cheese because all of those are bad to cook with, but in secret the person telling me this is just a vegan and they don't want you using animal products, which would be eggs or milk and cheese. That would establish your baseline in a far left field vegan cooking style, instead of establishing your understanding of baking to know that there's been thousands upon thousands of years in which we've used eggs and milk and cheese to cook food, and there's tons of foods you can't cook properly and make taste good without those products. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Fisherman Classic, and this looks like an attempt at a clone of an NES fishing game. I don't know why anybody would want to play this. It definitely does look like something that would have been playable on the NES, and I guess I could only assume that maybe this is a Famiclone game from China, 59 cents English only, or it's just a really, really low effort game. Yeah. And if I am going to play a fishing game, I think I want as realistic fishing graphics as possible. I don't think I want something different there. So apparently, maybe for the better, Twitch phrased it weirdly, but apparently the affiliate fees have been lowered, and so they're charging less to do like a direct deposit, 25 cents if you're in the United States. If your bank wire is $11, why you do bank wire, I don't know. PayPal is 75 cents. So clearly you would want to do direct deposit above anything else. And if you're outside of the US, yeah, you're paying a lot. Certainly. But I think they lowered the fees and didn't raise them, but it's kind of hard to tell. And it really won't affect most people because most people won't be affiliates on Twitch and make any money. The vast majority of people on YouTube and Twitch that are streaming gaming are not monetized. They think they're monetized a lot of times because they click the monetize button, which YouTube lets you do, and I'm sure Twitch does something similar, but they haven't met the goals and the metrics to actually be monetized. And then, of course, there's plenty of people doing copyright claims, content ID claims, that are putting ads on these non-monetized channels to make them think, even the creators potentially think, that they're monetized just because ads are playing. But when they actually do a little bit more research, they realize, oh, actually, no, I'm not making any money. And yeah, I am included in that group. I still am a far away from having 1,000 subscribers, so until YouTube either lowers the 1,000 subscribers back down to 100, which I doubt they'll do, and or I just somehow get a massive amount of subscribers, yeah, my channel's demonetized, even though it once was monetized, and that certainly sucks. I'd love to be making some pennies right about now. A lot of people would love to be making a few pennies right now. Of course, after all of this pandemic, maybe advertising budgets will be slashed like crazy and businesses will be out of business anyway, so I might hit a point where I'm monetized and I'm still not making a reasonable amount of money. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Spearmaster, which seems like you are a character that goes to different levels and then throws a spear up, hitting a bunch of slimes and bouncy things, for lack of a better term. It's not a good gameplay mechanic is the problem here. Like, being able to throw a spear upwards can be one thing a character could do, but it can't be really the only thing. This character clearly can't jump from the looks of it, and can't fire forward or backwards, which would be what you would want to do. You'd kind of want to at least an 8-way directional ability to throw spears, eventually getting an ability for spears to bounce off one wall. You'd want to have some jumping and platforming. But yeah, none of that is here. And they want $11.04. This is English and Dutch. And maybe that's why it's a Spearmasters, because it's from a Dutch company. But yeah, there'd have to be more gameplay there for that to deserve a follow. We already talked about the Doom Eternal Update 1, so we don't need to talk about that again. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Machina of Planet Tree Unity Unions, which sounds like some word salad, and it looks like it's a high action JRPG game. It looks like it's probably mostly family appropriate, as any JRPG anime game is, just seeing some cleavage and that's it. Appropriate for like teens and such. It's from Sekai Project. It's $17.09. It's English, Japanese, and Chinese. No full audio in any of it. Yeah, I'll put this on the follow list and see if people like it. We have not seen a lot of adult games released over this week, so I guess that kind of starts to counter if we don't see anything by next Friday. Maybe some adult games have been held back. It seems like that typically is the case. But yeah, we've also not really seen a lot of Japanese games, and some of that might really be now that Japan is really shutting down. Um, we'll see less of those games come out. And in general, we might start getting to a point where the Steam games that come out are going to become fewer and fewer because it will just be low effort garbage games, and I'll just start curating those a lot more. It'd be really weird for me to do a 2-3 hour live stream and say there's just nothing to talk about as far as new games though. So I doubt we'd get that to that point. If we did, I'd probably have to rethink how I do these streams. Next, we have a game on Steam called Drifter King Online. It looks like it's just a low effort drifting racing game. It's $3.59. Seems to have online actually. Just wanted to make sure. And it's English only. So next we have a game called The Magic Storm, which apparently is a hidden object game. It very much looks like a kid-friendly hidden object game. Maybe a little too kid-friendly. Maybe a little bit beneath me. 99 cents, English and Russian. Yeah, I'm going to put this on the fall list. It might be a Russian troll game, but there's no evidence of that. And there are kind of a lack of early childhood friendly games on PC in particular. So if this can keep a 7-year-old entertained, or it seems like it can keep a 7-year-old entertained for a couple hours, it probably is worth the 99 cents that they're asking. And I definitely would be happier with more 99 cents kid games that are kind of mobile ports over 99 cents garbage games that can't keep anybody entertained for a couple of hours. Next, we have a game on Steam called Night Spasm, which is an RPG maker garbage game. A lot of text, making me think there's a translated potential Chinese game. $19.99, English only. Nope. I guess it's just got a lot of text. But yeah, definitely not interesting. TechRaptor has this article. The Scorn developer says CPU is the biggest leap for the next generation, not ray tracing or the SSD or faster memory. There is something about how the PlayStation 5 moves its video memory around that makes the graphics potentially work faster and better with the new Unreal Engine 5 that's going to come out about a year after the PlayStation 5 comes out, and frankly, most people's games will not implement the Unreal Engine version 5 for 2 or 3 years into the release of the PlayStation 5. So, like, yeah, a lot of those benefits that were highlighted in that demo may take quite a while before you actually see them implemented. But yeah, it seems like they made basically a shortcut between the video memory and the GPU, so it doesn't have to go through the CPU for the PlayStation 5. And the same technology very well may be implemented in the Xbox Series X also, and it just hasn't been mentioned. Gamma Sutra has an article here, a blog. Niantic's response to the lockdown threat comments a robust H1 2020 for Pokemon Go. I don't know what robust H1 means though. Maybe that's supposed to be quarter one or half of a year. Well, regardless, Pokemon Go has tried really hard to maintain relevancy and keep people playing and keep people happy while they have to stay inside their houses. And I have to applaud that. We already talked about the Play Next features. Gamma Sutra has an article about that. No need to talk about a second time. Here we have Club Penguin fan server. Club Penguin Online has been shut down by Disney. which is weird, but clearly Disney does not want any Club Penguins to succeed. And I would think that small niche cult following should just be embraced or left alone. There's really no reason to DMCA a fan server. In that case, it's not like Disney's going to do anything with it. Next, we have a game on Steam called Tabletop Playground, which looks like another tabletop simulator type game. It looks like it's kind of pretty, maybe even a little bit prettier than Tabletop Simulator, although it would be a hard sell to buy this for $13.49, and then go and spend about $20 on Tabletop Simulator also. And I think most people that are going to do anything already have Tabletop Simulator, so I guess the bigger question would be, is this made by the exact same company that made Tabletop Simulator, and are they double dipping? Doesn't seem like that is the case. So yeah, that needs to be on the follow list. TechRaptor has an article here. Doom Eternal's new anti-cheat breaks the game for some and raises concerns. So the de novo being installed has already caused some problems. But also I would argue that as soon as de novo gets installed in any game, somebody's going to write an article like that, and somebody is going to probably falsely claim that it affected their game, or assume that it affected their game when it really didn't, when they have some other problem. So the severity of installing de novo and how much it breaks the game for most people is going to be a major consideration there. Speaking of breaking the game, MTG Arena apparently was having a bug, and to fix the bug, they forced everybody to install 3 gigs before they could launch the app today, which is really, really bad timing to force people who are having bad internet trouble in the first place to download an extra 3 gigs. Here we have a game called Phantom Path, which looks like a slightly interesting puzzle game that works with some lights. It's not visually as polished as you would like, but it does seem like there's an actual game here. It's $9.99. It's English only, single player. Yeah, I'm going to put this on the follow list. This might be a more simplistic version of something like the Talos Principle. It really is just going to come down to reviews and just like how long the game is in itself. If it takes 5 minutes to beat the whole game, then that's not going to be much or worth your time. But if it's 5 to 10 hours, then it's totally worth it. TechRaptor has an article here. Leech Bug brings an environmental approach to action. This looks like a game they're promoting where you play as a leech. And I don't think I want to play as a leech. I don't recognize this guy either, the staff writer. I've never seen him before, so he must be new. Looking at the interface and all this just is not visually appealing. So we have a weird situation because there's a lot of things after the Humble Bundle tab that are open, and I don't know if those are things we need to talk about or if those are things that I had left over from Wednesday and I just never dealt with. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Nazi Labs, where apparently you select a prisoner and then play a terrible top-down twin stick shooter game. And yeah, it's trying to certainly be aggressive. Here you have a girl in a bra, you're using Nazi as a name. Yeah, it's definitely trying to be overly aggressive and offensive. It's $1.79 English full audio. I don't see any reason why that would make it to the follow list. Next, we have a game called Pandemic Crisis, which you could probably tell is an attempt at being a clone of Plague Incorporated, but you can also see with the text and all of this, it's not well designed as far as the user interface. And even Plague Inc. is not really designed well with its user interface, and this is still way worse than that. It's $3.99, English only. Yeah, nothing there worth following. Let's see. Next, we have a game called Legend of Orion Adventure, which looks like it's an isometric dungeon crawler or something, or a top-down twin-stick dungeon crawler. Dungeon building adventure and hack and slash game. You build the dungeon, apparently. Well, the problem here is this looks like it's a cell phone game being ported to Steam, and it looks like an incredibly boring, repetitive game. It feels a little bit like Dungeon Keeper without the elements that are good about Dungeon Keeper. Just every single screenshot, you're seeing the same tile set and basically nothing happening. It's early access, 764, third-party accounts required, English only. Third-party account when it's single player anyways. That's really ridiculous. So yeah, that can't make it to the fall list. TechRaptor has an article here. Nintendo Switch Online is getting new Super NES and NES games, which good for it. But it probably should start moving towards the Nintendo 64 era also. By the way, the new RetroArch Nintendo 64 emulator that they were teasing is now out kind of in beta, and it's been completely rewritten from the ground up. It probably still only would work on PCs, but up until this point, getting even major PCs to run Nintendo 64 games accurately and well has been a hassle, because the Nintendo 64 is just designed so weirdly as a piece of equipment. So the new parallel emulator uses the new graphics cards technology instead of OpenGL, and it really does seem to bring everything up to 60 frames or more, which is great for the few people that want to play Nintendo 64 games on their PCs, but I don't think it's going to change much unless it can really get backported to the Raspberry Pi, and it probably can't. It might speed up some of the emulation on the Raspberry Pi, but I bet it doesn't. There's a Nintendo thing I don't want to show, so I'm going to come over here and look at this. It looks like it's got a Puyo game that's coming out, and maybe that's will only come out in Japan and Eastern countries. Looks like Wild Guns is coming out. Yeah, it looks like a top-down twin-stick shooter is coming out. Also, Rygar is coming out apparently. Contra clone. So yeah, apparently the Famicom titles are going to be Rygar, Journey to Silius, while the Super Famicom games will be Super Punch-Out and Panel de Pawn, which is probably the Puyo match game that I was seeing. And it'll just be a matter of seeing if those come to the West. Let's see. For the Super NES and for the West, you get Wild Guns, Panel de Pawn, and Operation Logic Bomb. And for the NES, so now they're up to 82 games between two consoles. You could easily be up to 100 games just on the NES, but they're slowly releasing it, and that's kind of the problem with them. Gamatsu has the same article. Panel de Pawn, Wild Guns, and Rygar. This is Panel de Pawn, I guess. So yeah, they're slowly releasing those games where anybody that really wants to play those games probably shouldn't have to pay for them. They should just be getting them for free as a just free service, particularly as Nintendo is going to probably need to keep people happy who've paid for a Switch, and games are going to be fewer to come out. And they really should have just thrown a lot of those games for free. And you're still comparing the playing like it in an emulator, you still have a case where a lot of third-party games are not ever going to make it to the Nintendo Switch. And the Nintendo Switch isn't even kind of a good emulator station. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. The former Xbox exec Jay Allard, which I do recognize his name, is now Intellivision's global managing director. I imagine that was probably his only way to get a improvement in title, a new job, a promotion, because he was probably just too high up. Working for Intellivision might be alright, might not. It's not Atari. Atari is the one that's just a holding company and it's a scam. But I don't know off the top of my head if Intellivision has done anything or made anything in the recent time, in the recent decade at all. TechRaptor has an article. Epic Games is making the Unreal Engine 4 free to use till studios make over $1 million in revenue. This was mentioned for the Unreal Engine 5 during the announcement there, and it wasn't really made clear. So now, in theory, and you'd really have to look at the wording of it, you can make up to $1 million in what I assume is gross revenue before you have to pay a license. And then I imagine after that point you have to pay a license for all sales, including that initial 1 million. Although I have seen people phrase it more that you don't have to pay a license at all for the initial 1 million, which is, there's a big difference there. And only every $1 you make after that first initial million of revenue, then do you have to pay what is roughly 30% in licensing fees. It's not a bad offer, certainly. Epic, the one thing Epic is doing right is trying to get more people to use Epic and not use things like Unity or in-house engines. It would have been nice if Epic had made these kind of offers half a decade ago. It certainly would have established quite a bit. If almost every game was made in the Unity engine, the Unreal Engine, it probably would make for a lot better games to come out. But yeah, it's a nice offer that they're doing now for their own benefit, because if at any point a lot of people could decide that they don't want to do business with Epic and make their own in-house engine. That had been the trend for a long time previously. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. The Capcom's earning call teases multiple new large titles are coming later this year. I think I also mentioned that the rumor is that the next Resident Evil 8, is going to be the darkest and bloodiest ever so far. So, yeah. It seems like Capcom is going to double down on games, but there is also the risk that Capcom releases a bunch of really bad games, because they're kind of known for doing that also. So they may come out with a lot, but they may all kind of suck, and it may be better if Capcom just sticks to having 2 or 3 AAA games that they're really focused on, so that they make a polished experience. One can definitely argue that even Resident Evil 3 Remake didn't get enough focus, didn't get enough polish on it, and there should be more of a game there. TechRaptor has an article here. Prison Architect Island Bound expansion has been revealed, coming in June. So it's Prison Architect : Island Bound. I don't know if any YouTubers or streamers are going to want to go back to Prison Architect and play that some more, and without it getting that kind of coverage, I don't know if anybody really cares about Prison Architect anymore. Tech Raptor has an article. The USC Games Expo, University of Southern California, I assume, concludes with 50 free games available for download. These are probably all student games. Be nice if they would spell out their name, at least in the article, instead of just calling it USC. Let's see. Where are we here? As far as where you would download it, these games. So you have to go to the Gaming Expo site, which then has a flash plugger player being blocked. Let's just look at the Expo games instead and see if any of this will load without me having to turn off things. So here we have like 50 games, and Scarlet looks like it might be good, but if you can't get it on Steam, I kind of don't care about any of this game. This game Soul might be an interesting, scary 5 minutes. Soul Survivor. Soulfarer looks like it might be good, but a lot of these really do look like just student projects or indie jam games. The Exam Artist might be an interesting parody on cheating. The Witch List might be interesting. The World That Was. Some of these look just terrible, though. Really, really bad. In a funny way, I guess the $100 Steam Direct fee probably is a good thing. Like, I kind of would prefer a better curation system for Steam, but it does seem like it stops a lot of people from putting up games like these onto Steam, which there's Leechbug. That was one that TechRaptor covered. And maybe over the course of the next year, all of these games will still end up on Steam, so maybe $100 is not enough. I wouldn't be upset. I don't think many people would be upset if Valve said, you know what, we're going to double the price. We're going to say $200 to list instead of $100 going forward. If that got rid of just 25% of the low effort games, that would be great. I wouldn't be upset if they set it to $500. I personally think $500 is reasonable, because a lot of the developers in like third world countries that are making games that can't afford $500 also aren't making good games either. And maybe at some point you have like a scholarship system in which people could fund or GoFund $500 to list on Steam, and certainly there's nothing stopping anybody from making a GoFundMe or Kickstarter to list their game on Steam. But yeah, 500's probably a good point. That really makes people stop and think. The price of a console, for instance, there's a lot more you can do with that. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. The Elder Scrolls Blades Nintendo Switch version has arrived, which is kind of funny because they took this off of the iOS storefront because they didn't want to update it to use the new required code for iOS. So they're doing something with it, I suppose, by bringing it to the Switch. But Elder Scrolls Blades was never really a great game. It was kind of pretty compared to other iOS games, and that's about it. And it certainly was a waste of development time, in my opinion, for Bethesda to have a game like that made instead of focusing on just making the next true Elder Scrolls sequel. Moving on, Game Searcher has an article. AppLovin acquires Final Fantasy 15, a new Empire dev called Machine Zone. This is the problem. The whole title of the game is Final Fantasy 15, a new Empire. And they should put that in quotes. So I've heard of AppLovin. I don't know what they've really done, but clearly they make cell phone games, and they've just acquired another cell phone game developer. And you know what I think I want to do is I'm going to just leave the rest of the games for Monday, and we'll just cover the news. So, Gamasutra has an article. Net sales are down at Square Enix due to a lack of major HD game releases. No surprise there at all. And then there are several games I'm going to skip. And then we have a Gamatsu article. Sega Age's Thunder Force AC launches May 28th in the West. So this looks like another old Sega game coming out. And Gamasutra has an article. Square Enix won't hold one big E3-like announcement stream this summer, which is probably good because I don't think Square Enix has that much to announce. So it would be kind of a mistake for them to try to do that. TechRaptor has a interview here. Solace State has a message worth hearing. Hacktivism and privacy in the digital age. Okay. Speaking of privacy, seemingly, if I understand the news right, and I've been paying attention, it seems like both the House of Representatives and the Senate voted to allow the FBI to watch U.S. citizens' internet history without a warrant. So just warrantless wiretappings approved by the government that's supposed to represent the citizens by the FBI nonstop. And undoubtedly they were already doing it, but at the very least, can we not give them the legal authority to do such things, particularly considering how getting warrants is super, super easy and totally a manipulable system anyways. See, we already talked about Paper Mario the Origami King. Here's a different screenshot. I can see that there's Bowser Jr. and Bowser and a bunch of origami creatures. It'll be interesting to see if Captain Toad or Toadette show up, because those would be like the newest characters that you would want to put in a game like that. But I imagine they might stay in their own games, and there may just be a long run of Captain Toad and Toadette games. Gamatsu has an article, No Straight Roads. It adds in Xbox One and Switch versions. I imagine also the Princess Crown that turns Toadette into Princess Peach, like, that probably won't show up anywhere ever again, considering how people went wild with the idea of what happens if Luigi puts on the Princess Crown, what happens if Mario or Bowser puts on the Princess Crown. It was mostly what happens if Bowser puts on the Princess Crown. No Straight Roads, guess I should mention, already has a PS4 and PC versions coming out on June 30th. This looks like a slightly interesting game from the screenshot. I'd like to kind of know more about it. Let's see. Is it a Metroidvania? It's like a music, people running around hacking and slashing. Well, that does look weird. It does look like a musical kind of infinite runner kind of game. It might be something here as like a boss rush, but I could also be fairly disappointed with it. Gamatsu has an article. The anime-fused action RPG Zinjion is coming to the PS4, Xbox One, and Switch in 2020. It's currently available for PC. I don't recognize this game, so I'll Looks like you run around and you beat up on things like you would in an action RPG. Looks like we got a guy you're playing as, and you can play as 4 friends. So it's kind of like a slightly anime inspired in the character design, almost top-down version of Castle Crashers, with random item drops, which might make this a little bit boring depending on how interesting the game is. Or this might be like a Binding of Isaac game where you just want to do run after run after run. I'd like to see the feedback on how people like the game. Kind of like in Borderlands. Like Borderlands 1, you probably could have gotten your friends to play you through that game 3, 4, 5 times, and people wouldn't really complain, even though most of it's the same stuff. And Binding of Isaac, certainly you can play thousands of runs of that. Moving on, the Mafia trilogy has been announced, so it's not just a remaster of Mafia 1 and 2, but also 3 in some form. It's coming out for the PS4 and Xbox One and PC. A full announcement is set for May 19th. It will still be weird to jump between Mafia 1 and Mafia 2 to Mafia 3, which is a different game. And I don't really believe that this adds any hope that a Mafia 4 comes out. They're probably done with it. They should just potentially either reboot the series or set some other games with the Mafia name, if the Mafia name even sells units, which I'm not sure it does. Next, Gematsu has an article. A puzzle adventure platformer, Scully, has been announced for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on August 4th. You apparently play as a skull creature. Skull ball. And how do you play if you're rolling? This looks like it's a marble rolling game. It looks more visually polished than that. It seems like you transform yourself into different kinds of other creatures. Interesting. Which then that changes you from just being a ball the whole time. And that makes this feel like a lot more of a game. Yeah, for a second there I thought you were going to transform like Glover into different kinds of balls. But yeah, there might be something there. I can't immediately dismiss that as just a marble game. And got 2 more things. Gematsu has an article here. Kandagawa Jet Girls has a Western release announced. One Step from Eden, and more PlayStation Store listings have been leaked. Kandagawa Jet Girls are these girls that are on like jet skis, and then they shoot each other with like these magic electric guns, and when they get shot, their clothes kind of detach and fall off, and usually they're more in kind of like wetsuits than what's being shown here. And there's an anime around it, and certainly it is in part designed to be lewd, but it's probably not as adult or mature as far as what it shows as you would think. It's just trying to tease and titillate, and on a dumb premise, so it probably won't be that good of a game unless it somehow turns into just a really, really good jet ski riding game, which would be weird. And combining the ability to shoot other people while riding on a jet ski is a weird combination of abilities, but it hasn't been tried before, so I have to kind of applaud that. Other listings they have here to note are Bioshock Remastered 1 and 2, Castle Pals, Crisis Remastered, Jump King, Kuloro, never heard of that one, One Step from Eden, Rainswept, Real Pollux, New Power, Rune Lord, Samurai Showdown, Neo Geo Collection, and Social Freaks Beta. So some of these games I might need to look at and remind myself what they are. But yeah, a lot of these games do seem like they're more Japanese coming to the West games, which I always like to see that. TechCrafter has an article here. Fly Punch Boom receives a late May release date for Switch and PC. This is a fighting game of some sort. Like, I think the idea is that it's kind of just the final hit that you often get in Smash Brothers, where you run into people and then you get knocked back in far distance, and that's kind of all it is. It looks very weird. This looks kind of like a Toonami cartoon that in its weirdness and its animation style. Okay, and that will bring me to the Humble Bundle. So let's see what bundles we have. There's the Play with Friends bundle, and then the Humble Indie Bundle 21, and the Sarah bundle still exists too. So there's like 3 games bundles going on right now. And the Humble Indie Bundle won't reveal any new games on the second tier until 3 more days and 13 hours. So we are still there. A Big Fish Games Hidden Object game came out. Dark Tales, Edgar Allan Poe's The Bells Collector's Edition. I'm not going to bother to open that page and show you. And I'm now scrolling down my Twitter feed just to see if there's any new bits of information, and I suspect the answer to that is no. Yeah, I don't see a single new tweet other than that one game or 2 games. So yeah, we're gonna be done with this stream. Late stream. I'm definitely open to feedback if people like the late streams a little bit more. I wouldn't want to go till midnight, which Central Time is, which is when it is right now. I would want to go closer to an afternoon stream of 2 Central Time, 3 Eastern or Pacific or whatever. Like something reasonable after school time slot, basically, is what I'd like to shoot for going forward. And we'll see how my insomnia works around that. But yeah, any feedback would be appreciated. Any way to improve would be appreciated. I really would like to get some suggestion that would just like, do this and your channel will take off like crazy. I would love for somebody to give me that kind of advice, but almost certainly any suggestion made I've either already heard and rejected for some reason, or it's asking me to do something that I'm just not capable of doing. Alright, well that's going to be it for the stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.